Usually when we talk about a 2,000-year-old biblical prophecy, there's this expectation of distance.
Right.
It's like looking at an exhibit in a museum. You see the ancient agricultural metaphors like seeds and wheat and fields, and it just feels completely disconnected from our modern lives.
Yeah, it feels safe, right? It's historical, firmly contained in the past.
Yeah.
We like to keep our ancient texts neatly categorized on a shelf, like far away from the chaos of our smartphones and our daily commutes.
Exactly. But today, on this deep dive, we are completely shattering that glass museum case.
Oh, for sure.
We're stepping into this highly specific theological framework that takes an ancient parable about a farmer and connects it intimately, like almost uncomfortably, to your daily job, to multi-level marketing schemes, and even to those beauty filters you use on social media.
Yeah, it's wild. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a translated transcript of an in-depth theological study session. It focuses on the parable of the weeds from the book of Matthew. And the speaker in this source material, they don't just read this as a nice moral story. They interpret it as a sweeping, urgent metaphor for the human heart, the very nature of worldly knowledge, and like the ultimate destiny of planet Earth.
It's a radical reinterpretation. It asks you to completely rethink what concepts like heaven and the end of the world actually mean.
It really does.
Now, it is worth noting right up front that this framework makes some massive sweeping claims, particularly regarding secular philosophy and modern science.
Yeah, definitely.
So we are not here to endorse those views, right? We're not picking sides. We're just here to be your guides through the internal logic of this fascinating worldview. We're just looking at the architecture of a very specific belief system.
Right, we're just mapping it out. And to understand that architecture, we really have to start down in the dirt.
Okay, let's unpack this. Set the scene for us.
So in the original story, a man sows good seed in his field. But while everyone is sleeping, an enemy sneaks in and sows weeds among the wheat.
Simple enough.
Right. But the source material breaks this down on two crucial levels. First, the field represents the entire world. But if you zoom in, the field is also the individual human heart. It's you. Your mind and your spirit are the soil.
Well, if the field is the human mind, then the seed being planted, it has to be the actual information or ideas taking root, right?
Exactly. The seed is the word. But crucially, there isn't just one type of seed blowing around in the wind here.
Just two.
Yeah, two distinct types. God seeds, which are the good wheat, and the devil seeds, which are the weeds. And the fate of any given seed depends entirely on the ecology of the field it lands in.
Which is fascinating because the source outlines 4 different types of soil, which are basically 4 different psychological states of the human heart.
Right.
But what really strikes me is they don't treat this like a random lottery. It's entirely about how a person has conditioned their own mind. Like, the first scenario is a heart described as a hard, beaten path.
Yeah, the seed just sits there, totally exposed on the surface. It hasn't penetrated at all. So the birds, which the speaker identifies as evil spirits, they just swoop down and snatch it away.
So it never even had a chance.
Not at all. I mean, think about what a beaten path actually is. It's dirt that has been trampled on so many times by so much foot traffic that it's become as hard as concrete.
Well, wow.
Metaphorically, this is a mind that has been so trampled by external noise, cynicisms, and passing trends that nothing meaningful can even begin to take root.
That makes total sense. And then you have the rocky soil. The seed sprouts quickly here, but the roots immediately hit stones.
Right. And the source interprets these stones as a person's own stubborn thoughts and preconceptions.
So they're blocking their own growth.
Exactly. Imagine a root trying to reach underground water. If it hits a solid block of stone, it can't go any deeper. When a new, challenging truth tries to take root in a stubborn mind, it might cause an initial burst of excitement.
Sure, like a new obsession.
Yeah. But the moment persecution or hardship hits, the moment the sun beats down on that plant, it withers and dies because the stubborn preconceptions blocked it from ever developing a deep support system.
Which brings in a completely different kind of environmental hazard. The thorny soil.
Ah, yes. The thorns.
Because a thorny patch might actually have great fertile dirt, right? The seed grows, but it gets completely suffocated because thorns are notoriously aggressive at stealing nutrients and blocking out the sun.
And this is where it gets really relatable, because the thorns are identified as the pursuit of wealth, worldly power, and earthly anxieties.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The mind might be highly receptive to the truth, but if that same mind is obsessing over a promotion or, terrified of a stock market crash.
Those anxieties are going to consume all the cognitive and spiritual nutrients available.
Exactly. The truth just gets choked out.
All of this makes the fourth environment, the good soil, feel like a massive undertaking.
It really is.
It's a patient, enduring heart that holds onto the seed despite the rocks, the thorns, and the birds, eventually yielding a massive harvest. I love this imagery because it puts the responsibility back on the environment.
Oh, so?
Well, it's kind of like trying to plant a delicate heirloom tomato. You can't just toss it on concrete or into a briar patch and blame the genetic makeup of the seed when it doesn't grow. The soil does the heavy lifting.
So that's a great way to put it. And the speaker insists that you have to actively cultivate your heart to be that good soil. It's an ongoing, grueling process of endurance.
But, if we run with this ecosystem metaphor, I hit a logical wall here.
Okay, what is it?
If the field is my human heart, and God planted a good heirloom tomato seed, how do the weeds actually sneak in without me noticing? Like, if someone wanders into my garden and starts planting a briar patch, I'm going to see them doing it.
Well, you would only see them if the sun was up. The core narrative of the parable hinges on a nighttime sabotage. The text specifically says, the enemy came while everyone was sleeping. And this theology takes the concepts of day and night and applies them to a massive historical timeline.
Okay, so they aren't talking about a literal Tuesday night.
No. The speaker points to the book of John, where Jesus describes himself as the light of the world. In this framework, the time when Jesus was physically on earth sowing the good seed was the day. It was an era of profound spiritual illumination.
But then he leaves, the light departs.
Right, and the world is plunged into a 2,000-year-long spiritual night.
Wow.
During this massive stretch of darkness, humanity has been asleep. And in this context, sleeping doesn't mean literal physical rest. It describes a psychological state of spiritual ignorance.
So we're just completely unaware.
Exactly. It's an inability to see the light or to discern absolute truth from falsehood. Because humanity was wandering around in the dark, effectively sleepwalking, the enemy was able to sneak in and sow weeds everywhere without facing any resistance.
And here is where the source drops a remarkably bold claim about what those weeds actually are.
Yeah, this is the controversial part.
The speaker asserts that the weeds choking out the world are precisely what we generally celebrate as human knowledge. Secular philosophy, modern science, and corrupt religious institutions are all categorized as the enemy's weeds.
It's a striking assertion for sure. It really forces us to examine why human knowledge is viewed with such deep suspicion in this framework.
Right.
Divine truth, according to this theology, is absolute. It's unchanging. It's a solid foundation that never shifts. But what is the defining characteristic of human science and philosophy?
Well, it's constantly updating. I mean, we run a new experiment, we learn new things, we discard old models, and we rewrite the textbooks. We view that as progress.
But from the perspective of this theology, that constant overturning of order is proof of its instability. A new scientific paradigm replaces the old one. A new philosophical school dismantles the previous one. This endless shifting is seen as a deliberate feature, not a bug. It's designed to keep people confused, distracted, and fundamentally unmoored.
It's a weed that grows fast and spreads everywhere.
Exactly. It changes shape just to choke out the simple, absolute truth.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Labeling all of science and philosophy as a malicious weed is a tough pill to swallow for a modern listener. I mean, most of us rely on the scientific method every single day, from the antibiotics we take to the very microphones we're speaking into right now.
The friction you're feeling is exactly why this perspective is so radical. It demands a total reevaluation of what you consider valuable.
But even if you completely reject the idea that science is evil, the metaphor the speaker is building perfectly captures a very real, modern psychological condition.
What do you mean?
Just think about the sheer existential fatigue of living in what feels like an information blizzard. You wake up to a new dietary study that completely contradicts yesterday's dietary study.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
You scroll through endless, contradictory philosophical debates on social media. You watch a 247 news cycle that leaves you more anxious and confused than when you woke up.
It is exhausting.
It really is. The metaphor of a dark field, completely overrun by tangled, contradictory weeds, perfectly describes that feeling of sleepwalking through modern life.
The source sees humanity as so overwhelmed by this blizzard of contradictory knowledge that we can't even recognize what a simple truth looks like anymore. The field isn't just slightly weedy, it's structurally overrun.
Okay, but hold on. If I have a dandelion choking out my tomatoes, I pull it the second I see it. Leaving it in the dirt just means it steals nutrients from the good plants.
Right.
If this theological farmer knows the field is overrun, why on earth would he tell his workers to leave the weeds in the ground?
Well, the workers in the parable actually suggest ripping them out immediately, but the master commands them to stop.
Why?
He explains that the roots of the weeds and the wheat are so deeply, intricately intertwined in the soil that if you aggressively rip out the weeds right now, you will uproot the good wheat along with them.
So the collateral damage would just be catastrophic.
Exactly. The master insists they have to wait for the proper season. They must wait for the harvest, which is associated with autumn leading into winter. Only at the harvest time will the weeds be gathered first, tied into bundles, and burned.
And the concept of being tied into a bundle leads to one of the most surprising and incredibly relatable parts of this entire framework.
Yeah, this part is fascinating.
The source takes this ancient idea of a bundle of weeds destined for a fire and maps it directly onto modern human behavior. The speaker argues that the enemy doesn't even need to forcefully tie us up. We bundle ourselves.
We voluntarily gather the rope and tie the knots.
Yes. The source points to incredibly mundane, everyday things. People allow themselves to be tightly bundled up by obsessing over demanding careers, by joining multi-level marketing schemes, attending endless fitness classes, or staying in toxic relationships.
We really have to ask why someone would do that. Why do we busy ourselves with all these earthly distractions if, according to the source, they are literally bundling us up for destruction? Like, why do people seek out a multi-level marketing scheme to consume all their free time?
Because, the source argues, we are still asleep, we are dreaming, and we are absolutely terrified of waking up.
Terrified of the light.
Exactly. Stepping out of a 2,000-year night into the blinding light of divine truth is painful. It exposes our flaws. It exposes our deep spiritual ugliness. And to explain the psychology of this denial, the speaker uses an analogy that it hit me like a freight train. The smartphone beauty filter.
It's a brilliant, highly contemporary way to explain the concept of spiritual denial.
We are so used to looking at ourselves through the curated beauty filter of our worldly lives. We look at our impressive job titles, our carefully managed social media feeds, our hyper-scheduled calendars, and we use them to smooth out our spiritual blemishes.
We use them to pretend we are thriving.
Right. But the speaker says that when the light of absolute truth finally shines on us, it's like someone remotely turning off the beauty filter in the middle of a video call.
Oh, man. The sudden exposure is jarring. Suddenly you see the reality of your spiritual state. You see the unchecked weeds, the rocky soil, the thorns.
And human nature violently recoils from that exposure. We would much rather stay in the comfortable dream. We prefer the fake filter because it hides the reality that we're overrun.
So we double down.
Exactly. We dive deeper into the distractions. We wrap another layer of the bundle around ourselves. We take on another useless work project, or we pick a fight in a bad relationship just to generate enough noise to avoid facing the unfiltered truth.
We're frantically curating illusions because the truth is too blinding to look at directly. But the source is very clear. The time to drop the filter is running out. Autumn is passing, and winter is coming.
And winter represents the final judgment. The speaker references a warning from Jesus in the book of Matthew, telling his followers to pray that their slight will not take place in winter.
Right.
In this framework, once winter fully arrives, the doors are locked, the harvesting is done, the final tally is made, and you are either a bundled weed or you are the wheat safe in the barn.
Now, when most people hear phrases like final judgment, winter, and burning the weeds, they immediately default to the traditional Hollywood apocalypse.
Oh, for sure. Asteroids, fire, all of it.
Right. They picture fire raining from the sky, the physical planet bursting into ashes, and the righteous floating away to some kingdom in the clouds.
But our source completely flips that traditional understanding on its head. This isn't an action movie apocalypse.
Not at all. This is perhaps the most profound theological shift in the entire lecture. The speaker argues forcefully that God is a creator, not a destroyer.
Right.
Why would a divine being spend immense time and effort designing a magnificent, intricate world only to burn the actual dirt and water to ashes?
That doesn't make sense. The speaker actually points to the book of Ecclesiastes to make a really logical point here.
Yeah.
The text says that generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. If the Earth remains forever, a literal planetary explosion doesn't fit the script.
Therefore, the speaker concludes that the phrase end of the world is a massive misunderstanding or a mistranslation. It's not the end of the physical Earth. It's only the end of the wicked's world. It's simply the end of the era of the weeds.
And if the physical Earth isn't being destroyed, but is just being aggressively weeded, well, that completely changes the stakes of human existence.
It really does.
It makes the idea of heaven less about escaping from the physical world and more about inheriting the very ground we are standing on right now.
The source links at the Book of Revelation to explain how this grand transition actually happens. The text describes an angel sitting on a cloud using a sickle to harvest the earth. Another angel uses fire to harvest grapes, which represent the weeds, so they can be trampled outside the city.
But how does truth act as a sickle? I mean, are we talking about literal angels flying around shouting facts at people?
Not quite. Think about what a sickle is actually designed to do. It's a curved, sharp blade used to hook around a stalk and violently sever it from its roots.
Okay.
The source explains that the sickle in this vision represents actual human beings who are armed with absolute truth. When someone shares a profound worldview-shattering truth with you, it operates the exact same way as that blade.
It cuts you.
It severs you. A hard truth cuts you away from your old life, your old misconceptions, and sometimes even your old social circles. The weaponized sharing of information is the sickle that separates the wheat from the weeds.
Wow. So what happens after this massive intellectual and spiritual harvest?
The ultimate result is not planetary destruction, but a hostile takeover. The kingdoms of the world become the kingdom of God.
The source gets a little dense with the terminology here, bringing in concepts like the 144,000 first fruits and Mount Zion.
Yeah, let's clarify the mechanics of those terms. Think about a literal physical farm. Before you harvest the entire massive crop of wheat, there are always a few early stalks that ripen before everything else.
Right.
Those are the first fruits. They prove that the harvest is ready. The speaker identifies these first fruits as a vanguard of spiritually pure individuals who have cultivated that perfect good soil we talked about earlier.
Okay, and Mount Zion.
Mount Zion isn't a fluffy cloud in the sky. It's a symbolic name for a restored, purified physical earth. The wheat, the children of the kingdom, they don't fly away, they remain, they inherit the dirt.
And the weeds simply disappear from it.
Exactly. The noise, the confusion, and the corrupt institutions are removed from reality.
It completely shifts your focus from the afterlife to the present moment. Heaven isn't a distant, ethereal waiting room. It's the immediate physical reality of how you are living right now, just purified of all the noise and the self-imposed bundles.
The kingdom is a time and a state of being, rather than a brand new physical location.
It demands that you take your current psychology incredibly seriously. The field is here. The harvest is happening in your mind right now.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
This has been a massive paradigm shift. I mean, we started by examining the microecology of the human heart, exploring how stubborn thoughts act like physical rocks blocking our spiritual roots.
Yeah, and we unpacked the concept of a 2,000-year spiritual night where humanity fell asleep in an information blizzard, completely losing track of absolute truth.
We explored the terrifying psychology of the beauty filter, how we willingly bundle ourselves in jobs and anxieties just to avoid looking at our unedited flaws. And finally, we looked at a radical redefinition of the apocalypse, viewing it not as the burning of the planet, but as a grand purification of the dirt beneath our feet.
It all comes together into this incredibly cohesive, if challenging, worldview.
So I want to turn this directly to you, the listener. Look at the architecture of your own life right now. What are the bundles that are tying you up?
Really think about it.
Is it a desperate need for status? An obsession with a career, or a toxic relationship that you're using as a distraction? Are you hiding behind a metaphorical beauty filter because the reality of your inner life is just too uncomfortable to look at?
You have to ask yourself whether you are actively cultivating a heart of good soil, or if you're letting the weeds take over simply because it's easier to stay asleep. Are you ready to drop the filter and step into the light, even if it hurts your eyes at first?
I will leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on that incredible image of people acting as sickles. We live in an era where we are constantly consuming words, ideas, podcasts, and articles. If words and ideas are the literal blades of this great harvest, think about the media you consume and the conversations you engage in every single day. Is it possible that every piece of knowledge you take to heart is actively harvesting you? Is it quietly severing you from who you used to be and gathering you into exactly what you are going to become?